is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Best Damn Clemson Show, brought to you by allclemsontigers.com. I'm your host, Cole Gerard, alongside.
My name is Cannon Gerald.
We are back for another episode this week. We got a lot to talk about. Huge weekend upcoming for Clemson fans, college football fans in general. In this new 12-man team in the college football playoff. But Cannon, it all starts tomorrow. Who's playing tomorrow? Is it Notre Dame and
Indiana? You got a in-state kind of, I wouldn't call it a rivalry per se, just because Indiana football's been where it is. But Indiana's got a quarterback that grew up in the Northeast. He's Canadian, I believe. He's been used to throwing football in the cold his entire life. I think Kirk Cinetti is one of the best coaches, and I think if Marcus Freeman doesn't kind of have a firm grip on his team, that he could be in for a good one. And we were kind of talking a little bit about the show, but we're just kind of hoping for a good game. It kind of seems like a tone setter game for the entire playoffs, and you kind of hope it's not a bad one. It's in football weather, so that'll be interesting.
When and we'll get into more of that game when we get to that, but before the bracket came out, and as we won the ACC championship, I was kind of saying maybe our best draw would be going to Notre Dame. I'm glad I'm not traveling to South Bend this weekend.
You're exactly right.
The weather, I mean, we wouldn't be prepared for it. And I think now looking at this Texas game, we're going to jump right into this Texas game. I think this is our best matchup, and I think this is a best draw for us because obviously, I mean, you got to look forward to this weekend and you got to stay focused for this weekend. But you do your part; it's in your favor. Going forward. But we're going to get right into this Clemson versus Texas matchup. Obviously, when you look it up on ESPN, Texas opens up as a 12-point favor, or I think it opened up at like 10, but it's gone up since then to 12 points. So obviously, they don't think the Tigers have a chance in this game. And me personally, Cannon, I love it. I think this fuels that Dabo Swinney team up, that Cade Klubnik-led team. I mean, Cade Klubnik, Brian Westco, homecoming coming up soon. I mean, R.J. Mickens, playing the same high school team as Quinn. And then, of course, looking on the other side of the ball, you got Andrew Makuba, who was a former Tiger. So it's going to be a lot of familiar faces around for these guys. I mean, a lot of kids Cade played high school ball with. They're going up against each other. So I think it just fuels that fire for him and pumps him up more. So, hey, y'all don't believe in hometown kid? Let's prove them wrong. So
I definitely think that you're 100% right. I think that kind of Barrett Carter with the board, you couldn't seem to lose after that ACC championship game. It's us against the world. And, we were on that we were on that mountaintop for a while. This is our 7th college football playoffs. We're certainly a familiar face to everyone else, that doesn't want to see us there. And I kind of think, it's good. I'm glad that people are underestimating us and kind of thinking that we're one of the most undeserving teams. And, maybe we didn't deserve it, but hey, let's show them while we're here. And I definitely think you're right about favorable matchups. I think originally before the whole bracket got announced, I was hoping that we'd be maybe taking a trip to Happy Valley. I think that would have been a fun time, good environment and everything. But, the way that they just kind of held their own against a great, great, great Oregon team, one that's undeniably the best in the country. What really surprised me is their ability to score the ball, and there's that Big Ten physical play, where bringing a banged up Phil Maffa in there would kind of be our worst nightmare matchup wise. So I think this Texas matchup, like you were mentioning, has like a lot of interesting factors. Kind of a new one that you were telling me before got a little bit more interesting. Isaiah Bond expected not to play whatsoever. I know that he was a little bit doubtful throughout the week and everything like that. But hearing that has to be huge for the Tigers on defense, knowing that that's, an explosive weapon that they don't have to worry about.
Yeah, and I still think you prepared for him just so your head doesn't get on any kind of sort of, banter and, now we really got to show you prepare as if he's playing. And what I've read so far is he hasn't practiced this week. He's just done a bunch of like PT therapy kind of stuff. But that would be a huge get for the Tigers if Bond is indeed out. That would kind of light up the game. I mean, you keep the game plan the same, of course, and you go keep your foot on the gas the whole game. But there wouldn't be quite less options for Quinn Ewers across the board. Let's get into this matchup with Cade Klubnik and Quinn Ewers. Obviously, Cade Klubnik undefeated against him. Cade Klubnik's undefeated in DKR. At Texas Football Stadium. Just looking at Cade Klubnik's stats this year, 282 for 443 for 3,303 yards, 33 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I mean, how that wasn't good enough, and any Heisman talk, and when they released the
Heisman for next year,
runner-up, No, not even that. The runner-ups kind of.
Yeah, the
He's
top
not
10.
even.
Kyle McCord. I mean,
And
thank you, Kyle McCord in Syracuse, but I had to agree with you there.
he threw as many picks in one game than Cade threw his whole season. Anyways, and then Quinn for the season, 233 for 352, 2,665 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. This is high school all over again for these quarterbacks coming into this weekend. Obviously, they're great friends. They have a lot of memories on that field together, playing against each other. And obviously, Cade Clemson holds the reign with 3-0 against Quinn. So hopefully we can get 4 on this weekend. But the biggest talk I feel like for Clemson right now is the running back position, because obviously Phil Maffa has not been 100% for the last couple of weeks, dealing with that shoulder injury. And then obviously Jay Haynes going down with that tour. The comment says K didn't even make first team ACC, which is an absolute joke. Yeah, it is. He can do what he can do, and like I said, that fuels the fire, man. It just all it does. But Jay Haynes did suffer that season-ending torn ACL on that kickoff. So next man up, Keith Adams Jr. I'm a big believer in Keith Adams. We've seen him play running back since last year. I mean, obviously he got his first ever score against Wake Forest. He's not going to run up the middle and just let you get him. He's going to lay his shoulder, and that's why he called Hammerhead. And the odds for him scoring this weekend are the biggest odds. And if I was somebody, hey, if we know Keith's getting the ball with Phil's injuries, if we're on like a goal line situation, I wouldn't doubt Keith Adams. I wouldn't doubt him not getting the ball. And I think Keith Adams is going to see the most carries in his whole career on Saturday, and I truly believe that.
Too.
Just kind of, you got to.
Yep.
Potential. Phil's hurt. We know it, and I know he's going to do everything in his power to play. And they already announced he's playing. He wouldn't sit this one out for the world, but somebody's got to be behind you, and I think Keith's that guy. I think he's earned it.
And Keith's a little bit kind of similar to Moffa in the play style, like you were saying, just a wrecking ball and everything like that. But he's 2-3 inches, a little bit smaller, which is going to make him a little bit kind of harder to get and everything. And I think Moffa's a big body and everything, but if we're kind of not planning, 1 week ahead and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think that he's a guy that you have to get on rotation in that running back room. Like you were saying, it's kind of a homecoming for Cade, and I think that's exactly how he wants it. I think that's exactly how we're going to beat them, is just getting off to a start kind of like we did against SMU. I'd like to see a little bit more sustainability kind of in our drives, not really like moving lackadaisical. I think Garrett Riley came out at a press conference kind of with some regrets at the end of the SMU and even the South Carolina game. And, as good as it feels to, hear our offensive coordinator say that and kind of address the issues that I feel like the fans have kind of been first to and, the most persistent about, we'll see this weekend and everything like that. And, I fully believe that, we're going to make the calls that are going to let us win this game and everything like that. But it's going to come down to the play calling as well. You know what I mean? The guys can only do what they can do. We're going to have to keep the defense well rested and everything. And I think we have a great chance to, especially like we were talking about with Bond's injury. Quinn Ewers has not fared too well against man coverage this year. And Clemson is a team that runs man coverage, 60 to 70% of the time. So losing a weapon off that, giving our guys like Ashton Hampton, Avion Terrell, a chance to kind of go at maybe, not absolute guys, because let's not forget that it is Texas. Their next guy up still, was the best at his high school, the best in his city, wherever he came from. But you know what I mean? I think that just kind of exuberates confidence for us. And I think another area that Quinn has struggled is really making that long ball. We saw last year when they made a national championship semifinal push, Quinn had Xavier Worthy. They could blow a coverage once every 5 plays down the field. And just bust plays wide open, and something that they've kind of lacked. Quinn's thrown 3 interceptions on balls that are thrown over 40 yards, compared to none that he threw last year. I think it's just, it's kind of night and day difference of that offense. And I think it's a kind of a spot that people aren't necessarily talking about as much.
Yeah. Comment says, do you guys think our line is going to hold up? I think so. And that's the biggest question to the game. If our offense can just score and move the ball consistently with that great defense Texas has, Clemson wins the game.
Right.
Our defense is ready. They know it's coming, especially, they've seen Quinn Ewers' film. We know what we have to do to win this game. And if we can just score and can move the ball on their defense, there's no reason we can't. And like Garrett, and Get Riley said this in his interviews with how we've let off the gas, and I hate that had to be like admitted. But we've all seen it, and so hopefully, let's play 4 complete quarters. I mean, let's just keep going because we've seen this Clemson offense. You know, for a half they'll go out there and light it up. And the next we're in, and we'll give up 17-point lead. Let's just keep going. Let's just keep driving and stacking and get that respect that we deserve. If I'm being honest with you, but it's hard to when you just let off, and I get it. But I think it happens this weekend. I think this Clemson team. I think this is the most. If there's going to be an upset this weekend, for sure, Clemson, and I believe that. I think we have the best draw. Best draw in the situation. But, you know, I'm not going to get too much of a banter. I'll talk all night. But let's get into – I want to talk about our wide receiver room. It seems – I feel like our wide receiver room has been very performant over the last couple – I mean, dating back to the second game of the year. But really, the last 2 weeks with South Carolina, even in a game we lost to South Carolina, I think that was the best game our wide receivers played all year. And I believe that. Barely any drops. It was like we were coming down to anything. We had a couple 50-50 balls, and versus SMU, I mean, Wesco had 100 what?
43 receiving yards.
43. For a guy like that going back home too, I mean, he's wanting to show out in front of his hometown friends, his family. I mean, I'm sure he's going to have a lot of people in that building. He's not going to go there to disappoint. So I'm excited. Hopefully, obviously, we're going to see TJ Moore get a lot of reps, get some balls, hopefully get some touchdowns there. A guy that I want to see if he's going to get, you know, more than 2 or 3 plays is Tyler Brown. For a guy that sat out all year, basically, other than the first couple of games, and then I think he ran like 2 or 3 plays versus SMU, just to kind of get him back on his feet a little bit. That could be a guy to come up huge, man, just to kind of get that rotation going. And somebody I'm really excited to see Saturday at the kickoff return position is Adam Randall. I just feel it, bro. I feel it. For a guy like that, like Dabo said, who could have left, man, he could have gave up. And he waits till his number was called. He's the third string kickoff guy because or third, yeah, because it would go Jay and then they and then they threw him out there to kind of just set up some field position, and it stuck. And so I feel something special coming from Adam Randall this weekend. Can we see our first kickoff returns? Sammy Watkins has been here. Who knows, but. You know, if anybody's more deserving of Adam Randall, I think he's going to give us that spark on kickoff team this week.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if that kickoff video makes an appearance on the Jumbotron, considering they're, you know, kind of forced to play our intro video, hype video.
Play the intro video. Tiger Bang is going on the field. The only thing different is our logo's not on the field.
Yeah, it's kind of insane, you know, hearing that fourth quarter video. I bet they're going to mute it a little bit, but, you know, I think that our guys are going to come out juiced up, and I think, like you're saying, you know, Antonio Williams is going to come out and have to make a name for himself. I really like the point you made about Tyler Brown, because wouldn't that just be so Dabo? You know what I mean? If we go out there and our first drive is 3 straight throws to Tyler Brown, they have no film up and they haven't seen all year.
Yeah, man, why not?
It just kind of reminds you of like back when our David Scott, you know, towards ACL came back against Syracuse. You know, we throw a screen to him, he takes it 70 yards to the house. I think we got an exciting weekend planned for our wide receiver room. Potentially had an even more exciting last couple of days for the wide receiver room. We took in East Missouri. Is it State? It might be State. East Missouri Junior College.
South is CMOS. That's where Cam Warren came from. Southeastern Missouri. So, and that's what pisses me off, man. You know, people complain about Dabo going to the portal, and then he goes, and then as soon as we get this FCS guy, they're like, "Oh my God, he's Southeast Missouri." I'm like, Cam Moore came there, and he's a Heisman finalist. So don't sleep on that. And then obviously today, getting that edge rusher from Purdue will help. And on 3, I mean, if you're going to look at the transfer portal into sorts, you're going on 3 pretty much these days to keep up with that and crystal balls. Dabo is the number 1 edge rusher in the portal. What a get for Dabo Swinney and the Tigers, because I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, he just get that one wide receiver and say, hey, I used it and close it." I mean, he just landed a big name guy, and a lot of people did not expect it. I mean,
it was a guy that LSU and A&M had kind of been creeping up on too, you know, and the reports say that he got here on Friday. You know, I was kind of getting a little bit worried as the week came on. Everything,
Friday left Sunday.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a long trip. Dabo, I mean, it was said that he was going to have to sell him on his culture, and I guess, you know what I mean. Fortunately for us, he did.
Did Dabo stuff Mike Elko and Brian Kelly in a locker on this one? Because, I mean,
Yeah,
everybody talks about how Clemson doesn't have the NIL money, but oil money, and then obviously LSU's got it. Did little old Clemson finally say, hey, we're going to get this guy? And, I had a feeling we would have got him. I did have a really good feeling we were going to get this guy. He was here for 3 days. He had to fall in love with the place.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
especially
100%.
coming from Purdue, one or two win team. I mean, he wants to. He saw that culture. I'm sure they had player interviews with him, and I mean, what else could you do about it?
I mean, and think about that D-line. If, K-Part, he's kind of waiting to hear about eligibility rules and everything like that. But, if he comes back, having Pee-Woo, K-Part, TJ Parker, and then now this transfer Will Help coming in, not to mention 5-star Amare Adams coming in as a freshman, kind of to sit behind to learn from that group. I think that's scary. Yeah, I think the biggest concerns moving forward out of the transfer portal to me are definitely pieces to that secondary. 100%. I think cornerback is, one of the more important positions that we need to fulfill because, we've had guys that are leaving, they might not be starters or a cornerback 1 or 2, but they are 3 and 4. So, we're going from our cornerback 2 and Ashton Hunter down to a guy in Jaden Lucas who we maybe, didn't expect to see the field as much. And I think another thing with that, with Help, it kind of makes me feel a little bit better about our linebacker position moving forward because I think that variety on the defensive line, I think they're just going to light up the run game. I don't think anyone's going to be allowed to sustain anything on us, and I think it's going to give the linebackers like Sammy Brown kind of an easier job where he can just go be an animal.
Yeah, since he wants to comment it, we'll put him up on the board and let everybody see it. True Grave says Clemson doesn't have a prayer Saturday. They don't even belong in the playoffs. They didn't belong in the ACC championship game, even though they went off a miracle field goal. Well, Truett, thank God we all have our own opinions, and we don't get paid enough like Kirk Herbstreit and all these guys to talk about it. Doesn't know how to play 4 quarters of football. Okay, well, that's your opinion. Coach Hall says afraid of alcohol. No more leaving at half or gathering at I feel like they're not going to start to leave at halftime, and only way the gathering at the Paul ends, I think, is if the ACC bans it as a whole, kind of like the SEC. They're not going to stop 85,000 people from coming on the field. I don't think that's going to make big of a difference. I mean, you're not wrong by that, but I think the only way that happens is if the ACC bans it as a whole. Do you want to do our little playoff brackets? You want to do our brackets?
Yeah, no, I'm ready to do it if wherever you are. And I think South Carolina fans will kind of trick people in all this portal talk and everything, saying, "Look who I got."
Looks like we have a South Carolina fan on the show, so hey.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, if you want to flex former stars on what they were doing in high school 2 years ago, we'll take productivity. You know what I mean? We're going to go get guys that have shown on the field what they can do. But
I guess they can't talk about the playoffs until they catch up to our 7 appearances. But I'll just hold off on that. I don't know how well the Cheez-It Bowl, Citrus Bowl pays to your programs, but good luck and maybe
I think that Illinois'
world trip will be a good time.
Yeah, Illinois was a tough pool for the Gamecocks. Hopefully, they can pull through for that one.
Yeah, so I have my bracket in front of me. We can kind of dive through that and give who you have starting from the first game tomorrow all the way into the national championship game.
All right. For that first game tomorrow, I think I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I think Indiana matches up great. And I think if Riley Leonard comes out there like he did against Northern Illinois and throws up a dud, then Cignetti's going to jump all over it. It's a defense in Indiana that we've seen contain teams all year, except for, Ohio State through the last 2 quarters of that game. I think they're lethal. I would definitely put an upset warning on this game, but I am going to go with the Irish.
Okay. For the Notre Dame game, I agree with you on that sort. I mean, both teams are from Indiana, and, Indiana's not making that far of a drive to South Bend. They're both prepared for the weather conditions, I feel like. But, in Notre Dame Stadium, Riley Leonard, I can't think of the guy's name, Freeman, their coach.
Mark Freeman.
Something Freeman. Mark Freeman.
Yeah.
They're going to be very prepared for this game, I feel like. Riley Leonard, Bo Collins at a sort. We've seen, and I'm sure we'll get a comment or two saying, oh, that sounds like Clemson. But Indiana, we've seen how they played against Ohio State and teams like that. I'm not counting Indiana completely out this game, but I think Notre Dame is very prepared for this home game. The first ever 12-man team game, and they get the first one at home in a night. Probably going to be full of snow as well. So, yeah, but I do think Notre Dame sneaks away with this game. If you want to go, I can start off with the SMU Penn State game.
Yep. See, this is a game that I kind of wish that I felt the way that I do about Indiana that I do, or I kind of wish that I felt about SMU how I do about Indiana. I wanted to call this an upset, you know what I mean? I wanted to kind of believe that the ACC had a chance and everything like that, but I'm on a little Penn State wave right now. I think that Penn State is by far and away the better team. And I think that SMU has the capability. Kevin Jennings is a great quarterback. They can definitely make this a 4-quarter ball game, but I think Penn State will end up winning by about double digits.
We've all seen Penn State's defense play very good defense. And we've all seen SMU's offense play. They had a great offense, and Kevin Jennings, great quarterback. I think this all comes down to Drew Aller and this Penn State offense, if they can keep that momentum, because we've seen them, they'll score, and it kind of reminds you of a sense of a couple of teams we've seen play. Does Penn State? They're going to score. They're going to score consistently, and I think SMU as well. If SMU could score against their defense, we got a ball game. But can Drew Aller keep his team pushing forward with James Franklin on a headset? I think this is going to be a greater game than people think, and I think this will come down to the wire. But in the end, I did pick Penn State winning this game on their home turf. I mean, it's a whiteout. It's a noon game. It's the only thing that sucks about it. But I feel like, in Pennsylvania, especially Penn State fans, I think they're pretty used to noon games, especially being the whiteout.
Yeah, there might be snow on the game that ground too, they're saying.
Yeah, so and that's going to be a big trouble for SMU, especially coming from Dallas. They don't usually expect snow, being in Midwest kind of. But, Penn State prepares for this. This is what they play through. And their spring workouts, it is cold. So, hey, I got Penn State. We're going to jump to this comment. I've been a Clemson fan for 56 years, and I'm honest that our coach staff is garbage. They don't deserve the money they're being paid. Godwin and Riley, let's go. Yeah, but I am going to take Penn State in this one. Yeah, Penn State. Sorry. I'm getting all sorts.
Yeah, you're all good. You're all good. Next game you want to go to is Tennessee, Ohio State.
Sorry, I get off on a banner, guys. But,
I've gone back and forth with this one. Kind of what I've seen on Twitter. It seems like it might be Knoxville of the North up there. Tennessee fans kind of seem like they're playing a little takeover of Columbus. And I think that that's all in all very suitable to happen. I think Ohio State fans have kind of pinned themselves. You know what I mean? Like capable to play in the North. They haven't played postseason football in cold weather in 12 years. I don't know where that kind of persona came from. Any big game that they've had, lost to Michigan in the cold the past 3 or 4 years. I think Tennessee comes in here and kind of rings their bell. I think I don't know how hot Ryan Day's seat necessarily is from inside that camp or anything like that. But I'm gonna go with Tennessee.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I got Tennessee, and I think that was kind of an easy one for me, if I'm being honest with you. This Tennessee team's pumped up. The fans, too, man. They've already found a way to rename the horseshoe on Apple Maps to Neyland North. And, I think this Tennessee team comes out fired. This Ohio State team coming off that awful loss to Michigan to kind of, to not give them that top 4 seed. And like you said about that cold weather, that's true. And, Tennessee, they know how to play in cold weather as well. Only being 5 hours from Columbus, that's not as far as people think. And I think Tennessee is very prepared. I think Nico comes out here. Both these teams haven't played since the last game of the season. I think this game could be very chippy as well. But does Will Howard keep it going? It's kind of unpredictable from the Ohio State team's perspective. But, as a guy that hates both of these teams, I really do hate Ohio State a lot. And I hate Tennessee, too, obviously, because, 2022 was not a great year to play Tennessee in sports for us, especially baseball and football. But, man, something tells me this Tennessee is going to go into Columbus and win straight up.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, and Tennessee kind of seems like the only athletic department as a whole that's been better than Clemson within the past 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? Only team that can say they've been to as many College World Series. You know what I mean? Win as many bowl games. And go to as far as us in March Madness, all the way to the Elite Eight. But yeah, moving on to the biggest game, at least for us for the weekend, our game. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I think that we kind of come in there, get off to a hot start. I think that we're able to establish a very kind of a different run scheme than what we've originally been used to. I think we get smart about how we go about passing the ball. I think biggest thing of the day, I think our guys and Sammy Brown and the linebackers kind of come in and do their thing. And Ashton Hampton and Avion Terrell, I think that they go in there and handle business. Peter Woods has a career day. I'm gonna go with Clemson 38, Texas about 28. I'm gonna say 10-point win for the Tigers.
That'd be a great night in Austin, I'll tell you that, if that happened. The vibes are getting real, man. Sitting right here at the hotel, I can't wait. And, since it came out, and I didn't know if I was going to make this trip, but, Lord willing, we're here. But yeah, we've already talked a little bit about this game. And the biggest factor in my head is if this Clemson offense can play a complete 4 quarters on both sides of the ball, if our offense can move the ball consistently and score against this great Texas defense, we win the game. I think people are overlooking this Texas team, and I'm not saying they're looking enough at this Clemson team. We know where we're terrible. We know where we're salt in a sense. Could Texas be looking ahead much of this game? I think so, and I think they're more worried about if Isaiah Bond's out, they're going to be talking about the locker room. As long as we have him for next week, when next week isn't guaranteed, and all Barrett Carter's been talking about all week is this isn't my last game. I didn't prepare for this to be my last game. We're not talking about next week. We're talking about going to Austin and beating Texas on their home turf. And I think that's where it comes down to. Can Clemson consistently play 4 quarters and not be conservative on the play calling after a half? We could go out there, from the kick. If we take the ball first, air it out the first play if we have to. You got to be. If we go out there looking conservative, they're going to know we're being conservative the whole game and that we're playing soft, so they can prepare for that. But if they go out there, they're seeing stuff us fly around the field and not scared to take shots against that great defense and that great secondary of Texas, Clemson wins this game. But in a score prediction, I think I'm gonna go. I think this could be a field goal kind of game, man. I really do think this could come down to the wire. I'm gonna go 34-28. It's not quite a field goal, but it's gonna be a 4th quarter battle, I think. But in the end, Clemson, all we gotta do is play 4 quarters and we win this game.
All right, yeah. So we'll just kind of keep it with the Tigers and everything like that. Obviously both of us have them beaten Texas. That would pair us up in the Peach Bowl on New Year's Day versus Arizona State. Scotterborough, one of the most interesting, kind of dynamic players. Would stink to put him out if we got there. But I think we'd do it. Obviously, I hadn't looked too much at Arizona State as a whole team. Kind of be a revenge game for Noble Johnson. Hopefully he's not giving our play call signals, anything like that away. But, just kind of off first impressions, I'd like us in Atlanta to be a home game for us, kind of that playoff experience, postseason experience. Having Dabo as a coach, as questionable as the coaching staff has been this year, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to take playoff experience every single day over none of it. And I would take us in the next round as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. And if we get to that point, which I hope so, and I truly believe we're capable of getting to that point in Atlanta, that's home turf for Clemson. And, Dabo Swinney in the playoffs, we've seen it. And especially if he gets a playoff chance in Atlanta, give it to Tigers.
Yep, I love it. All right, so our next game, I think we both picked Tennessee. So this would have a Rose Bowl matchup of Tennessee and Oregon. I think it would probably be the best color matchup in the history of color matchups in the Rose Bowl. Just kind of how I'm thinking of it. I would have to try to get a shirt or something like that. And I think this is no easy game for Oregon, but kind of similar to that Clemson point that I was making earlier. I think Dan Lanning's the best coach in the country right now. I think you see that in the results that his team's been given. They've kind of dominated every game they've played in. That Ohio State game score could have been a lot uglier if maybe some calls were called a little bit more correctly. So I have Oregon beating Tennessee and kind of advance into that Orange Bowl matchup versus us.
Yeah. This is, like you said, a great color matchup. This is probably the color rush jerseys of college football in the Rose Bowl. But we've seen Tennessee on the big stage this year, and I think their big stage does start on Saturday against Ohio State. But I feel like they match up very, very well against Ohio State, if not the better team. But they're going to, if they get this chance next weekend, they're playing the number one team in the country that's played consistent ball all year, and we've seen Nico on that big stage. Looking at the loss of Arkansas and the decision he made at the end of the game, that carries on, and it's hard unless you forget about it right then. It's hard to move on from stuff like that, and I'm sure he did as a quarterback and he's got a tough mentality as a kid too as well. But I think Oregon will win that matchup.
Yep, I love it. So kind of one of my least favorite. One of my least favorite matchups of the potential playoffs is Penn State, Boise State. I just kind of think it's a game that neutralizes the best aspects. You know what I mean? Penn State's impeccable run defense that we've all heard about versus, you know what I mean, Heisman hopeful and runner-up in Ashton Jeanty. Wouldn't really imagine watching a Boise State this year where Ashton Jeanty has about 50 yards would be kind of entertaining in a playoff format. But I think it's kind of what would happen. As great as a player that I think he is, if you give this Penn State team 6 to 7 full days to know that they've got one guy to contain, you know what I mean? I think that they're more than capable, and I think that they would kind of punch their ticket to the 4-team semifinal.
Yeah, I think I'm going to keep this short and say, well, give me Penn State. I'm not overlooking Boise State and Ashton Jeanty, but at the end of the day, it's not a one-man show, and a one-man ain't going to win the ball game. This is not their conference. Respectfully, this is a Big Ten team who has played the best of the best. So yeah, give me Penn State. I still think Ashton Jeanty could have a career day, but at the end of the day, it's not a one-man show.
Yep, I like it. All right, so that has us both with Notre Dame and Georgia rounding up the quarterfinals. I'm kind of keep this one short and sweet. I don't think Georgia's been as impressive as we're letting on. I think they're one of the top 3 teams in the country, but I think that gap is a lot closer than what it could be. And based on the way that they've been playing, I just think Notre Dame needs a couple of plays on offense to go their way. I don't think Gunnar Stockton is going to come in there and light it up. In whatever bowl game that would be. I would actually take the Irish in this game. Give me Notre Dame.
This is kind of a hard one for me because at the end of the day, this is Georgia, and we know they love them. And Kirby's smart as well. I'm going to take Georgia in this matchup just because they're going to find a way. They're going to find a way. It doesn't matter if they get help from the refs. Something's going to happen in that way. If Gunnar Stockton's just going to have a career day of some sort and beat Notre Dame. And I think Notre Dame's very, very beatable. So I would not be surprised. And I did mark Georgia in that win column for that game just because they'll find a way. They'll find a way. Like for the Georgia Tech game, Georgia Tech should have won that ball game, and everybody knows it.
Right.
Cam's asking stupid questions like he isn't somewhere right behind me. Anyways, but yeah, they'll find a way somehow. And it sucked, but that's in the college football era we're in now.
Yeah. It is. All right. Well, this next one, I'm gonna make you go first to kind of see what mode we're feeling. Clemson, Oregon in the Orange Bowl. Who you got?
I think at the end of the day, I'm a lifelong Clemson Tigers fan. Obviously we cover them, but at the end of the day, I want to be as less biased as possible, and I want to give my truest opinion at the moment. Now, once I turn this camera off, it's gonna be heck yeah, we're gonna win that game. But I'm gonna keep it non-biased as I can. Oregon's a great team. Cam answered it for me. Clemson versus Oregon in this game. If we get to this point in Dallas, obviously this isn't far from Cade's hometown again. It'd be like a second homecoming. We're going to be pumped up if we get this matchup. I feel like we match up well in Dallas, playing good in the Cotton Bowl. But Oregon coming into this game, it's kind of hard because I really haven't watched Oregon that much as a lot of people have. But they're the number one team in the country for a reason. And Dan Lanning's the best coach in college football right now. And Dylan Gabriel, we've seen him play. So I'm going to take Oregon in that matchup, right now. But if I see something different from this Clemson team Saturday, that could change my mind.
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't want to be the one to stop riding us until the wheels kind of fell off. Pause. But I think that if we did face up against Oregon, their offense would be too much. I think Evan Stewart is a beast. I kind of think that it's a long road ahead of the Tigers. Oregon would be coming off of 2 weeks. A grueling matchup probably against Tennessee in the Rose Bowl and everything. But just kind of a matchup disaster, I think, for the Tigers. As confident as I am in us in every game, like you said, when the camera goes off, I'd say we can beat any team in the country, but I think I'd go with the Ducks as well.
Yep. So now this will take us to
we got a little bit different matchups. Which we have a little bit different matchups. We both got Penn State there. We think Penn State's kind of a shoe-in, which, is we kind of figured with their path that they got. So you got Penn State, Georgia, though. Who do you think who do you think would win that one?
I think it all depends, too. I think Penn State would have the better offense in this game unless somehow Carson Beck gets back. And I feel like somehow, some way, they're going to find a way for him to play in the college football playoffs sometime if they win a game or not. I think it's all comes down to Georgia's defense and if they can stop Drew Aller and this Penn State offense. Right now, I got Georgia winning the ball game just because, like I said, they're going to find a way eventually. Somehow, Drew Aller's going to make a couple mistakes. That Georgia defense is going to hold up. And all you got to do is hand the ball off to Trevor Etienne, and I feel like that would be enough for him. And I hate the Bulldogs, man, but I just want to keep it as short and sweet and kind of non-biased as possible. I would love for Penn State to go in this game and kick their tail. I would love it. I'd eat it up, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to face what I think.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious for sure. So I had a little bit different matchup. I had Penn State and Notre Dame, and I kind of think this is two kind of titans of what they do meeting. And I think that to keep it short, Notre Dame would win the game. I think if they make it this far, then they could very well win the national championship. I think they have the best run defense in the country, not named Texas and Georgia, obviously. And I think Marcus Freeman is the most underrated coach in the country. I think Riley Leonard, is a guy that has shown that he can kind of come up to the big moments. And I think he's one of those guys that elevates the guys around him, which I think this playing ball at this time of the year is all about. I have Notre Dame, which gives us you would have Oregon versus Georgia in your national championship, and
Ducks.
I would have Ducks. You got Ducks all the way.
Maybe easily that game for sure. Ducks.
Yeah, that would give me Oregon and Notre Dame, and I'm with you. Give me the Ducks. If they make it that far, then I don't think anyone's getting in their way. If they get to the game in Atlanta, then I kind of think this is finally the year. Ever since 2010, that we see them get their first one.
Now, if Clemson somehow playing in this game in Atlanta, give me them. I don't think we're going to play in Atlanta and not win the ball game for sure. But
nope.
Yeah, that's our first 12-man playoff bracket, first one I've ever made because it's never happened before unless somebody's jumped in the future somehow. I think it's going to be a fun weekend, man, covering this first round. And hopefully the Tigers win and keep moving on so we can kind of say we made history in this 12-man playoff, and I think we're very capable of it.
I agree with you. I hope we're not kind of meeting them next time and with a little bit worse attitude, you know what I mean? Talking about what could have been and what could have happened. I don't really want to preview the rest of the playoffs if we're not in it. So, I got my fingers crossed from now until probably 7 o'clock on Saturday.
Yep. Well, guys, that is our college football playoff bracket. We covered that Clemson versus Texas matchup. We got into that a bunch, and obviously we think our Tigers are going to go to Austin and win the ball game, and I fully expect us to. And they're very capable. Like you said, hopefully next week we're on this camera, excited planning our trips to Atlanta, but we're not going to jump ahead too much. Got to take care of business in Texas first. But as always, I'm Cole Gerard.
I'm Cannon Gerald.
We will see you guys next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.